Well, we've reached that time of year now. The holidays are over. Halloween is super far away, so there's not a whole lot to talk about. So let's bring in some listicles! I figure now is as good a time as any to go ahead and kick out a top 5. And this week, I'm going to go ahead and talk about my top 5 favorite rides in Southern California theme parks. Bear in mind, I haven't ridden everything from everywhere, as I can't really do the crazy coaster stuff anymore. So this ride is more for the family side of the viewers. And obviously before, like I do with all my lists, I'm going to kick it off with a couple honorable mentions. And these are rides that I very much hold near and dear to my heart and are easily breaking the top 10. So I had to put them on and make sure that we pay them the proper tribute. The first one is Transformers at Universal Studios. This was my favorite ride for quite a long time. The ride is a perfect combination of thrilling movement of the vehicle, some really cool props and scenes throughout the ride, and the use of 3D actually kind of holds up. It's not the kind of 3D integrated ride that will give you a headache 30 seconds in like some other 3D rides will do. And the way that the ride car moves kind of seamlessly with the animations that are happening on the screens that seem to kind of go all around you, it makes it a super fun ride. The ride is only like 4.5 minutes long, but even the wait in the line, the use of the space within that entire warehouse really helps to kind of keep people engaged in the story. It tells the story through the whole line, and it makes you feel like you're a part of the ride even when you're not even on the ride yet. I love when parks do this. I love when parks, and Disneyland is especially good at it. Universal is getting much, much better. Keeping people engaged and immersed in the ride while they're still standing in line. These days, lines are very, very long. We have to wait for almost everything. And if you want to attract people to the ride itself, using the means of not just the ride, queue space, queue theming, that's big. Transformers does it really well. The other honorable mention is one of my all-time favorites as well, Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland. The ride, it checks off all the boxes. It's relaxing. It'll cool you off on a hot summer day because it's inside, it's underground, so it's a little cooler down there naturally. And the ride just stands the test of time. This ride was built like in the 60s, and today, in 2024, it still holds one of the coolest settings of any ride ever. It doesn't look dated. It doesn't seem worn down. Yeah, there are times where you'll go and there'll be animatronics missing. Speaking of which, there's almost 120 animatronics just in this ride alone, and that's pretty impressive to keep that kind of maintenance. And this is a ride that doesn't really undergo super extensive refurb shutdowns a lot of the time. It's not like, say, Matterhorn, where it's down a lot and it's down for a long time every time. It's almost the perfect ride. The only thing that it misses, obviously, is the thrill factor. There's one drop in the beginning that's pitch black, but it's only 40 feet or something like that, so it doesn't really get you. But it does a really good job at what it's supposed to do, which is throw you into the story of the ride itself. I love Pirates of the Caribbean. So that's all out of the way. Let's go ahead and get to the top 5. And we're going to start with the latest ride that I finally have been able to ride, and that is Apocalypse at Six Flags Magic Mountain. I've kind of regrown a renewed love for wooden roller coasters. There's a certain coaster to blame for that. We'll talk about him later. I really enjoy the architecture of a wooden roller coaster. I think it's impressive to build a thrill ride that can maintain the weight, the speed, and the gravity of something that will go 50 miles an hour, full of human beings, 12 to 15 to 16 at a time, and be made of something as archaic as a wooden structure. So this ride was brought in 2009, where it was originally Terminator Salvation. Since then, it underwent kind of a bit of a reskin of sorts. It still very much has that end of days kind of feel to it, and it also holds true the weight of having good theming in the line. Once you get inside the little shed area and you've got all of the flickering screens and the lights and it's dark and the music is around you and you start to really feel immersed in the story of the ride, even though it's a wooden coaster thrill ride, I love that. That will always give lots of bonus points to whatever ride I'm riding, regardless of how the ride itself holds up. So the ride's about 3 minutes long. It's got, the initial drop, which is, I believe, 87 feet or something like that. And it goes about 50 miles an hour, which is good enough because the ride is pretty turbulent. And as you know, when wooden roller coasters are turbulent, it tends to do a number on your back. So you don't really want that much speed with that much quakiness. Number 4, Jurassic World, Universal Studios. This is the ride that actually got me into the park. My favorite movie of all time is the original Jurassic Park movie from 1993. And even when this ride came out, just as the original Jurassic Park, I fell in love with it. This ride kind of set an example of what Universal Studios was capable of moving forward from the 90s. It kind of ushered in a new era of ride, if you will, because Universal Studios was very much known for its studio tour, and that was the big attraction. Yeah, it had like Back to the Future and E.T. and the shows, but when Jurassic Park came in, that kind of opened the doors. What we have today, and what we have today, they ain't done yet. But since rebranding it to Jurassic World back in, 2019 or something, the ride just took new heights. That Indominus that they have up in the show building up top now is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. It's scary, it's loud, it's visceral, it gives you goosebumps when you see it. The way it just kind of it walks into the frame and really provides a big thrill before the unfortunate floating T-Rex pops out, which that T-Rex is awesome. I love it. I really wish they would put something in front of it to show that it's not floating. I've never liked the fact that it's floating. I love the fact that it pops out at you and you swoop down underneath it to escape it. But I really wish they would put something in front of the bottom portion of that animatronic, just for realism's sake. The ride itself is 7 minutes long. The drop, I could have sworn years ago that drop was 550 billion feet. But no, 84 feet, which, I don't know, maybe that's something to be said with how I view rides now. I don't know. But the ride's not about the drop. The ride is about the entirety of the tour through a prehistoric land. And I love that. Number 3, we're going to head over to the Mouse House, California Adventure, Radiator Springs Racers. This is another ride that just kind of set the table for the things that Disney is capable of doing. It's half dark ride and it ends with a 45 mile an hour race through Radiator Springs, New Mexico. And the animatronics in this ride are unreal. It was the first time I was able to experience an animatronic with the projection mapping on it. And I remember before riding this ride, it took me a long time to do it because that line is always so long and I've never wanted to wait 70 minutes for the ride. Nowadays, you can get in line for 70 minutes. That's a good day because the ride is very much worth a 70-minute wait. It's another ride that has everything. It's got the thrills at the end. It's got the really fun story. It's got the music that helps immerse you in the scenery and the ambiance and the way that. It's hard to explain how I feel about this ride because it was such a roller coaster of emotions the first time I rode it. It was and getting to ride it for the first time with Kinley and Jensen really helped with that because I got to experience it through their eyes as well. This ride, just as far as having everything that you would want in a ride, it's not too crazy, so it's considered a family coaster. It's not so boring to where even thrill seekers can ride it. This ride is a perfect medium of everything. Disney nailed it, and there's a reason why it's one of the most sought after attractions to ride when you visit the Disneyland Resort. Number 2, the master of wooden roller coasters at Knott's Berry Farm, Ghost Rider. I was afraid to ride wooden roller coasters after riding the Grizzly in high school at Six Flags Great America up in Santa Clara, because that ride shut down my entire day at Great America because it just decimated my lower back. And I was 17 years old. I was in the best shape of my life, and that ride ruined me. Enter Ghost Rider, Knott's Berry Farm. This ride really showed you what a wooden coaster is fully capable of. It's fast, it's loud, and it's thrilling. And the little airtime hills provide the amount of butterflies that you want in a wooden roller coaster, because that's what a wooden roller coaster, unless you're Twisted Colossus, doesn't give you inversions or loops or anything. So it's got to rely on height and speed and airtime hills. Not to mention, it pulls 3.1 Gs at the end there. But Ghost Rider has everything. And Ghost Rider, the first time I rode that ride, I had to do it again. And then the second time I rode that ride, I had to do it again. And then after 4 times riding that ride, I had to drag Andrea back to Knott's Scary Farm and do it again 3 more times. It's just, it's that awesome, and it's worth it. And the constant line for that ride is 100% justified, because the ride gives you everything you would want in a thrill coaster while not breaking your back and allowing an old fart like me to be able to ride it over and over and over again and achieve the same thrills every time. Surprisingly, it goes faster than Apocalypse. It doesn't feel like it, but it does. The ride gets up to 56 miles an hour, and that drop is 108 feet in the beginning, which, again, I didn't realize that. I always assumed that it was maybe half the size of the Jurassic World ride. Turns out, it's much bigger. Worth it. If you ever go to Knott's, this ride is worth it. And my number 1 all-time favorite ride. Keep in mind, I'm not a thrill seeker. I love story. I'm a huge endorser of dark rides. I love rides that showcase innovation and story and technology. And what better ride to showcase all of these things than Rise of the Resistance at Disneyland? I was not able to ride this ride until over a year after it opened, mainly because of all the COVID stuff that happened and whatnot. But just the fanfare that it opened to was ridiculous. And to be able to ride this ride, you had to get into a virtual queue at first. And if you did not get into that queue within the first 15 seconds of the queue opening up, you weren't getting in at either time, whether it was the 8 a.m. one or the 1 p.m. So I had to wait until they had the line, the general admission. Granted, the first couple times I took the kids on it, we bought the Lightning Lane, and it was well worth it. The ride is unlike any other ride I've ever ridden before. From the pre-show, where Ray gives you the rundown, it's a really cool hologram scene that took me a long time to figure out how they did it. And I'm the kind of person that want to peek behind the curtain. I want to know how this is working. And I had to ride it quite a few times just to know how that worked. The BB-8 rolling out was awesome. It looks like an actual BB-8. And then when you jump into the little shuttle with everybody, it throws you into a transport vehicle that feels like you're going up into space. The animatronic in there, I don't remember the name of the character, Star Wars card.
Revoked.
But that animatronic is absolutely amazing. It looks real. It looks like you can sit there and have a conversation with it. And that introduction to the story is unlike anything you've ever ridden. This isn't a ride where you jump in the car and you let it take you. You get into this shuttle, you're standing there like an actual community transport system, and then you're taken by the First Order. I still, like, when they rip open the wall and then the actors walk in, you're like, wow, I'm a part of some sort of avant-garde showmanship piece here, and this is awesome. To be a part of that world, not just a spectator, and the way that Disney is able to pull it off with the people that they hire to play these parts, to keep these characters day in and day out, dealing with thousands of different personalities. Bravo. bravo to that. And then you get thrown, as soon as you get put on the aircraft, that giant scene with all of the stormtroopers and the big hangar door that just shows that you're in the middle of space and you feel like you're not on this planet anymore. Batu is far, far away. And even though I know that I'm just in a show building, I feel like I'm in a ship in the middle of outer space. And then they funnel you through it. Even though you have to go through and wait through lines, you're in the story. You feel like you're being thrown in a prison. They throw you in a prison, in a little jail cell with a bunch of other people. You watch another show, and then they open the door again, and then you're on your ride trains. And you've been on this ride already for almost 10 minutes. You've already been immersed in the story, and then you get to witness the thrill of moving around on, again, a trackless ride system, which, yes, today there's a lot more rides that are kind of integrating that trackless system into it, but come on. And this is a part of technology that's completely overlooked. The way that this ride has multiple cars running at the same time on different tracks with people in them and animatronics everywhere and music playing all over the place. You've got it's chaos for the next 5 minutes. And the whole time you're trackless. So it seems like, and this goes back to the floating T-Rex, it seems like this is really happening. Because everywhere you look, unless you're a big time stickler and a huge stick in the mud, don't be a stick in the mud.
2024, don't be a stick in the mud.
You feel like you're in a ship in space being chased down by the First Order and Kylo Ren. And it all culminates to the drop system in the escape pod at the very end, which is a beautiful lasting piece of that ride that gives you just the perfect amount of butterflies. And while you do drop down, yes, it's still a video screen, it's a simulator, but the motion of the ride matches perfectly with the motion on the screen. And that's something that if you don't get right, me personally, I'll notice, because it will mess me up. And every time I've ridden it, years after it had been opened, it still hits perfectly, all the way to the very end. And when you come out, when you exit that vehicle, you feel like you were part of history. And that I look forward to that being the future of rides. I know rides like this, they cost tens of millions of dollars to make. Probably more than that, probably hundreds of millions of dollars to make and maintain. But the ROI has to be a lot more than that, I would imagine. And this is something that excites me as a future theme park goer, knowing that these kind of rides are possible. And if you have the right Imagineering trademark and the right amount of money, anything is possible. It's funny to see how far just dark rides have come since the Calico Mine Train, back in, 1967 or something like that, when that ride was built. And that was kind of the inspiration for essentially everything leading up to Rise of the Resistance. So being able to be alive at a point in time where you can experience both of those within 5 miles of each other, that's a heck of a time to be alive. But that's my top 5 rides in Southern California. I would love to know if I missed anything or how spot on I was with everybody else. So let me know where you are in your top 5 rides of Southern California, and let's talk.